This will be a brief introduction to and demonstration of the Forrest Manufacturing Model 2054 vertical blade traveling table bandsaws. I do have other videos going into more of the detail, so I'll gloss over the high points of what a 2054 is, then do a demo cut introduction to this specific machine. This machine does belong to somebody. I'm doing some test cuts here, just basically running it in before I let the customer have it. So 2054 vertical blade traveling table bandsaw, obviously from the Nade. We have a vertical blade, which you can't see because I got a workpiece in the way. Got a vertical blade here. High-speed machine. We're running blade speeds about 3,000 feet per minute. We do offer an optional variable speed drive for the blade speed, running up to about 4,500 on these machines. In some cases, some materials you need to run slower. The table on this machine travels. The idea here is you load the workpiece onto the table and the table moves to make the cut. This machine, table motion, is powered. Our table drive mechanism that we've worked out uses a toothed timing belt. The toothed timing belt, cost effective, particularly for longer strokes, relatively insensitive to dust, misalignment, just the abuse that happens in a fabrication shop. That is, of course, variable speed. This machine is set up with a maximum table feed speed of 2 inches per second. You can vary that down to, like, I think it's 0.04 inches per second. There is the option to run a little bit faster. This is running off the table drive mechanism uses an inverter. So that 2 inches per second is at 60 hertz. You can overspeed that a little bit, get more speed out of it if you need it. Please call me before you do that though, if you have an existing machine. So traveling table. This machine has the optional, but very nice, precision workpiece positioning fence. So we've got electronic digital readout here, which you can't see from your angle, but it moves back and forth with hand crank. I compare it to a lathe cross slide, very tight, very smooth. It's got gear racks at both ends with a synchronizing shaft. It's got a multi-gear train in here, so you get a nice reduction. It's very nice. This machine has a laser guideline light on it. From the control panel, turn the laser on, and you get a nice red line where you're going to make your cut. Actually does 2 things for you. First off, obviously, serves as a workpiece positioning mark. So if you have a mark on your workpiece, you want to cut through that mark, just move the workpiece until the laser shows where you want to cut. The other thing I'll call is a safety feature. Short version is, if you see the red line on your hand or arm before you go to make a cut, move your hand. Controls. This machine has our basic controls, which really, to be fair, are not all that basic. From the panel, I've got a temporary wire in here to run the power. In use, the owner will poke a hole in the side here and run hard conduit with conductor in it. I'm not going to poke that hole for them. That's their job. So I can't close the cabinet door right now because of the wire. Long story. So start, stop. The motor running the blade drive is in this case, an upgrade to a 5 horsepower motor. It is a brake motor, such that when I hit this stop button, that blade stops just about instantly. If you need more information about that, you can call and ask, or I have other demo videos talking about the motor brake. Blade tension on this machine is controlled by a pneumatic system on the back side of the machine where you can't see it. I've got an air pressure regulator, electrically controlled solenoid valve. So tension, detension, you can't see it, but if I go detension, the blade goes slack, you get a fault indication, so you cannot run the blade if the blade is not tensioned. I also have a fault indication if the blade breaks or is missing. You'll get the same blade fault, you can't run the machine. And we have a low air pressure switch back there, such that if say you didn't turn the compressor on that morning or whatever, the machine doesn't have air pressure, you can't run it, stop. The pneumatic tensioning system is nice. It gives much more precise, accurate control of the blade tension. It also, compared to say a screw over spring mechanism, it also gives what I would call the blade gives a smoother ride. It's controlled at a better tension, much smoother mechanism than say a screw over spring. And anecdotal reports from the field are people get better blade life out of the pneumatic blade. Aside from all the benefits of straighter cut, all the things you want from a bandsaw. So that's tension, detention. We have fault conditions. We have a motor fault indication. If you have any kind of fault with either the blade drive motor or the table drive motor, fault, the blade fault light you've already seen. low air pressure, broken blade, blade not tension, blade fault. Table drive, we got table forward, table reverse, and stop buttons. So as you would expect, hit the forward button, and I'll illustrate in a moment. It goes forward, goes backwards, table stop. We have two separate speed controls. We have a separate speed control for the forward direction and the return direction. What's going to wind up happening in practice is you're going to find some forward cutting speed that works for you. Maybe it's 25% of full speed, whatever. You're going to wind up setting this 25%, leaving it there. For the return portion, that's dead time in your cycle. So you're pretty much exclusively going to leave the return speed at 100%. And as I mentioned, this machine has laser guideline light, laser on, laser off, controlled from the panel face. I believe the next thing to do then is a quick sample cut. The material I've got to cut today, it's kind of a high density foam material. My understanding is this is used as an anti-fatigue mat. So the customer buys these in big rolls, then he cuts them into sections, chamfers the corners, resells them. For positioning, oh, the blade. This is not the usual blade. I've got a 1-inch wide scallop edge knife style blade on here. Does a great job of cutting foam. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna move my foam over, just arbitrarily, and I'm gonna push it into position using my fence. This material cuts nicely, but it's deceptive. I'm cutting through the better part of 30 inches of material there. If I'm overly aggressive with a cut, it won't cut straight. So I'm using 25% of my table full speed, so something in range of ½ inch per second. Start the saw, start the table advance. So this machine is actually going to a customer who is cutting plastic totes. I think they're called gaylords, basically big plastic baskets. They need to cut those up, resize them, maybe cut them down for scrap, but also resize them, weld them up into different configurations. Like I said, this material is deceptive. It looks all nice and soft and squishy, but it cuts pretty slowly. It's fairly dense, and we can cut it quickly and get a quicker cut. We can cut it at a moderate pace and get a straight cut. We're doing the latter. Whoops, well that didn't come out pretty. Workpiece is actually warm. The blade actually puts some energy into this material. But that is, as I said, a fairly typical medium size for us, model 2054 bandsaw. If you have any questions or would like to discuss a specific application, please feel free to call or email us. Thank you for your time.